Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is David from Daveden Web Dev, and on this channel I like to talk about all things WordPress, focusing mostly on accessibility and any new features I see in a plugin. And today's topic will be about Elementor because they just released a new feature called I think it's called Atomic Tabs or Atomic Elements, the tabs component. So I thought since it's a new feature, so most likely it's going to be very accessible. So that's what we'll be testing out today. And we'll also be looking at some of the new other features there. This channel is just about exploring. So I'm not like I'm going to be teaching anything. We're just mostly going to be exploring what are the new features in Elementor and any page builder that talks about accessibility. So let me go ahead and pull it up. If you're joining in, just let me know, is the audio okay? Is the video okay? Is everything good? Then we know that we are going from there. But for now, let me just quickly open on my other screen, try to open up the Elementor's GitHub page so we can see exactly what the features are. I just got back into streaming, so I'm still a bit rusty. I've not recorded a video or live streamed in about 2 weeks or more. So some things have become a bit confusing to me. But yeah, we'll get through soon. But yeah, let me go ahead and switch my screen and I will look at what are the new features Elementor have brought out in their new version, which is the Elementor version 3.34 beta. And hopefully my system works. Yeah, okay. I don't know what will be happening to GitHub today. I don't know if it's my system, but something is wrong with GitHub. It's hard to navigate GitHub. It keeps giving me an error, like no server or something connected. So let me switch. So yeah. Oh, something is off. My screen seems it's the wrong screen. Let's fix that. What happened? We'll have to fix it live. I don't know what happened. Everything has just gone haywire on my system. Display capture is capturing the right screen. Yeah, I think. But why is it showing something else? Okay. Yeah, I think everything's good now. Okay, yeah. So I think the screen is okay now. This is what happens when you have not used the computer. I've not used this computer in a while, so things have changed and different updates. One of my screen has gone off, and some other things. I need to actually check it out before my next live stream. But today, yeah, we'll just go with the flow. So Elementor has come up with the new version called Beta 3.34, and they said it introduces atomic tabs, entrance animations, and more. Okay, so let's go ahead and check out the announcement section. I don't know what's happening. My GitHub, anytime I open GitHub, it just keeps giving an error. No server is currently available. Then I have to refresh the page before it shows up. But yeah, that is the link is in the chat if you want to check it out about the new features in GitHub. Oh, sorry, the new features in Elementor. And yeah, okay. So, oh, is this in the chat? No, it doesn't get to the chat yet. It will be in the description somewhere. But the features that it said are, let's go through it together. So the first one is the nested tabs, flexible, atomic, and fully customizable. I'll try and do a test, like a keyboard test and other kind of tests using one example of a tab and see if it works. Then what else? So it will come with the tabs menu, which is more or less like the tabs list. Then a tab trigger, which will be like the button element within the tabs list. And then we have the tabs content area and then the tabs content itself. So the content area will most likely be the one that has that role equal to tab panel, I believe. So we'll check out if it has all of the ARIA attributes. Then what else? You can also choose the selected tab and style it. So new selected state for active tabs. A dedicated selected state for tab triggers appearing conditionally only in nested tab elements. Okay, letting you style selected tabs with any styling control. Okay, we'll try that out. What else? So we have entrance and interactions. Say lightweight motion for atomic elements. Then a third tab introducing lightweight motion for atomic tabs. Add motion with simple atomic controls. Then let's see which one is lack of. Okay, yeah, let's switch to the screen. Okay, then what else? You can test it out by select any atomic element and open the interactions tab. Click add interaction and confirm that the settings panel appears. Okay, so we'll try that out. And then the other additional update is that now whenever you drop in an atomic element, it will add an atomic flexbox wrapper to it. So previously when you drop an atomic element on the page, it will wrap it in a version 3 container. So now they've made it that it will wrap in an atomic flexbox wrapper. We also have display conditions for atomic elements. Oh, nice. That's nice. Then media queries in custom CSS, and the new paragraph element supports the span tag. So let's go ahead and try everything out. So to begin, you have to have an Elementor website. So here we have is website with Elementor installed. If I go over to my plugins area, why is my system slow? So within Elementor, we have Elementor version 3.34 beta, then Elementor Pro version 3.34 beta 1. So everything is set up. Now, if you want to activate the version 4 editor, you have to go over to Elementor and then settings and editor v4, and then you say you want to try out the v4 experience, and it will set it up for you. Okay, so what else? Yeah, one thing that gets people confused a lot with Elementor is that they have, whenever you want to try out the beta version, a lot of people get confused. Why? If you go over to Google and just search for Elementor, let's see, Elementor beta, I'm using DuckDuckGo today, just search for Elementor beta, the first thing that pops up is the developer edition. So lots of people will now go ahead and install this developer edition on their website, thinking that they've installed the beta version of Elementor. But this developer edition is not really the beta version. It's kind of like an alpha version. In fact, they should change the name from Elementor beta to Elementor alpha, because this is more or less like a far future version for developers to test out what Elementor is currently working on. It's not what is the immediate beta release, but like a further release. So that's one problem with the whole thing, that Elementor used this beta name. They should have used an alpha name, because that is mostly for developers to test out their plugins, to make sure that their plugins are compatible with Elementor far into the future before Elementor releases any new feature. To really test out the beta version of Elementor, you need to go over to your dashboard and you go over to Elementor and Tools. Then you head over to Version Control and say you want to become a beta tester. When you enable that, after a few cache clearing of your cache or refreshing of your page, then you see the updates coming up in your dashboard to update to Elementor the latest beta version. So that's how you get to become a beta tester. Don't go and start downloading this plugin called the Elementor Beta Developer Edition. That is the wrong plugin. In fact, it should not be installed, but I think Elementor doesn't want to remove this name from, because I guess it's getting more downloads and more clicks, so that's why they keep leaving it there. But yeah, once you've installed that and you've gotten the latest version, we can now go ahead and test it out. So I'll go over to a page. Let me see if, so the Elementor Finder, you can use that. So let me use the Elementor Finder to go over to my home page. Nowadays, there are so many different command palettes. We have Command UI, which is what I use mostly. Then we have the command palette from WordPress itself, that you press Ctrl K to activate that. We also have Elementor Finder. You press Ctrl E if you want to get the Finder for Elementor. Then there is the Turbo Admin. There is Spotlight or something. I can't remember the name. But there are so many different ones nowadays. It's interesting. But yeah, so the first feature that Elementor said they introduced is that whenever you now drop in any widget, so let's say the heading widget, and just drop it into the widget area, you see that it now wraps in a flex box, which is a version 4 element. Previously, if you had dropped in the heading element into the page, it would have created a container element, which is not what we need. But now it's going to always use the version 4 flexbox wrapper to wrap any element you drop into the page. So that's a nice update. Then let's go ahead and delete that. So now they've expanded the number of options we have. Previously, we only had about 6. There was the heading, the div, flexbox, then the heading, and then image, paragraph, and button, I think. Then they introduced the YouTube element, they introduced the divider element, and now they've introduced the tabs element. So the tabs element is what we'll be testing out in today's video. Okay, so let's go ahead and drop in a tabs element. First, maybe I'll drop in maybe a div block. Within the div block, let me go ahead and drop in a flexbox. And then within the flexbox, I'll drop in the heading element and a tabs element. I really wished it was a way to quickly maybe hold a control key or something to add multiple elements. Adding one after the other is a bit of a tedious task. But anyway, that's something for another day. So let me make the first one a section. And then the inner wrapper, I'll just call it wrapper. And that's it. Then next, let me make this a regular div. Under the style tab, let me go ahead and give it a layout of flexbox and column. And it should start, the align items to be the start, I believe. Yeah. Okay, so that's it. Let me save it. And oh, interesting. Doesn't have the padding that I expected. Okay, let me go spacing. Oh, well, let's just ignore everything I was doing. Okay, so we have this. Now, let me go ahead and say this is the tabs component testing. Okay, publish. So let's go ahead and add some content. Now let's see how it works. So we have tabs. We have 3 tabs by default. And let's see, if you go to tablet view and mobile, okay, they stay at 3 tabs. So I guess it doesn't do any, there's no automatic conversion to accordions. It's just going to remain a tab on all devices. So I guess they're following the standard method or the standard design layout, that a tab remains a tab on all different devices. Okay, and then if we go into the structure panel, it creates the tabs, then tab menu, and tab content area. Within the tabs menu, it adds the trigger, so tab 1 trigger, tab 2 trigger, tab 3 trigger, and within the trigger, it adds a span tag. Yeah, a span tag. So the only thing we can choose is P or span whenever we use the paragraph element. Okay. Then what else? That's between the tabs. Then what about the tabs panel? What does it use? Can we even change the attributes? No. So the tabs panel are, you can't change anything. You can't change them to maybe a section or a div or anything. They're just going to be as dictated by Elementor. Okay. Okay, so that's it for the HTML. So let me go ahead and check out the HTML on the front end. But first, I'll just add in random elements. So let me add inside the first tab content. I'll add a paragraph element. Let's see, tab content, add paragraph element. Okay, and I'll say the first tab. Then maybe I'll add a link as well, just to make sure that there's a way to access the tab using, because I'm going to test it with the keyboard. So let me add a button element. Because unfortunately, with the paragraph element, you can't actually add a link into the paragraph. The link has to be the entire paragraph, but there's no way to say, okay, maybe this is A, then put an A tag within, for example, like this is a tab, the first tab, A, href equal to anything. Elementor will filter that out, so you can't do this kind of thing. But let me test it out to be sure. Test. So yeah, it shows that it's a link in the editor, but when we go to the front end, Elementor will do their sanitization or whatever it's called, and basically strip out any kind of HTML tag that you put in the P element. And let me see if I can put in. And basically, if you look at the content, it's just going to say this, the first tab test, without the A tag. It's going to strip out that A tag from the element, which I can understand on the one hand, but on the other hand, it is, oh shoot. Let me test again. Testing. Okay. Oh yeah, I thought the audio was off. Oh yeah, the audio still works. Okay, yeah. I can understand on the one hand that they're trying to be security conscious, but this really limits what you can do with Elementor's page builder, because right now that means there's no way you can put an A tag into a P element, because you can't nest any element inside the P tag, and you can't put an A tag. It's just I don't know. It's just hard. They should find a way to be able to allow us to add like span or link or whatever inside of the P tag. But for now, they still don't want to do that. They are making everything atomic that you can't use it. So if you want to really do anything like that, you need to use maybe a text editor widget or some other version 3 element widget. You can't use a version 4 element widget and have that level of control where you can put in an A tag or a span tag or a strong tag or anything inside of the paragraph. You can't do anything like that. But anyway, yeah, let's just leave this as it is. So let's say that's the first tab. Then the second tab, let me go ahead and drop in some elements. I'll drop in the same thing, maybe a heading and a button link as well. Then the third tab, I'll just add only a paragraph. Okay, so we just have some elements. Now let's see how it works on the front end. So let me go to the front end. And now, okay, using the keyboard test, you can see I can click on each of them. And whenever anyone is active, it has this border around it or outline. When I hover, it has a gray color over it for hover state. And yeah, the clicking works. So using a keyboard, everything works well. Next thing I'll do now is try to use that's using a mouse first. Then I'm trying now using a keyboard. So I'll use a keyboard and see if that works. So okay, yeah, using a keyboard, I get my focus states. I think this focus state is something I added myself, because it doesn't look like the regular focus states. But anyway, so we get our focus state. I can navigate using the arrow keys, but Elementor is doing the same thing that I pointed out in the previous version that they have, and that's the fact that yes, the left and right arrow keys work perfectly, but they also do the up and down arrow keys. That should not be used, because if there is, let me show you an example. If there's a lot of content, so for example, let me go to the website Ipsum, and let's say I have lots of content, right? Copy. Let me use a regular text editor widget so I can add multiple elements in there. Text editor. And then I'll paste more elements. I just need it to be more than the page. Okay, so let's publish this and go to the front end. So let me go ahead and open the pattern for tabs. So tabs pattern APG guide. First of all, let me see which type they're using. They're using the manual activation type. So there are two types of tabs patterns. There is the automatic activation, which means that whenever I hover over, whenever I use the keyboard to focus over any element, it will automatically activate the tab interface that is related to the tab menu. But in the case of the Elementor's version, you have to press the enter or space bar to activate the trigger. So they're using what they call the manual activation. So let's go ahead and see how that should work. So with the manual activation, this is how they say it should work for keyboard support. It should, let me go ahead and move my face. It should have, say, when focus moves into the tab list, places focus on the active tab element. So let's try that out first. So right now the active tab element is tab 3. So let me use my keyboard and press the tab key. So right now I'm on the contact link. So when I press the tab key now, you see it now focuses on the active tab panel. So that means the first thing is achieved. Then say when the tab list contains the focused, moves focus to the next element in the tab sequence, which is the A element in the tab panel. Okay, so that means there should be a link in the tab panel. Let me go ahead and I forgot to add a link in this tab panel. Okay, so like for this tab panel now, there's a link. So when I press the tab key on this tab panel, it should go to the link there. So press the tab key now, and you can see it goes to the link. So that works. Then the next thing it says that when a tab has focus, the enter or spacebar key should activate the tab, causing its associated panel to be displayed. So let's go back. So now I am on tab 2. When I press the enter or spacebar, it should activate tab 2, which, as you can see, the content of tab 2 is activated when I press the enter or spacebar key. If I press on the tab 3, enter or spacebar, it activates the panel for that tab. So that works. Then the next thing is the arrow keys. The right arrow key, when a tab has focus, moves focus to the next tab. If the focus is on the last tab, it should move focus to the first tab. So it should go in a circular order. Okay, so right arrow key should be moving focus from tab 1 to tab 2 to tab 3 and so on. Then conversely, the left arrow should do the opposite, so move back in the focus order. So it should go tab 3, tab 2, tab 1, and backwards. So that works. The left and right arrow key works. Then finally, we have the home key and the end key. The home key, when a tab has focus, should move focus to the first tab. Let's see if that works. Home, no, it doesn't work. End doesn't work. So home and end key don't work for that feature. So they didn't implement the home and the end key. But I think those ones are optional, so it's not mandatory, but it is good to have, especially when there are lots of tabs. Because I think if you go to YouTube, I believe, is it YouTube? no, it's not the, it's the YouTube YouTube Studio. They implemented the tabs interface on YouTube Studio, but not on the actual YouTube itself. And what else? There was also a warning if you go down. I think is it here? Okay, no, it's not here. There was supposed to be a warning sign somewhere. So let me go to the previous tab with the one with the automatic activation. Let's go and see if the warning is there. Oh, it seems the warning has disappeared. Or am I not viewing the right link? Let's go back. Manual activation. Okay. Let's see. Let me search for up arrow. Does it work? No. Arrow. Seems something has changed in the instructions for the tabs. Let's see. The initial. Oh, okay. Yeah. So I was checking the individual page, but this is like the general page. So the general page, before I go into the different types of activation, the general page explains everything well with the notes. So if you see the notes here, very important notes that says it is recommended that tabs activate automatically when they receive focus as long as their associated tab panels are displayed without noticeable latency. So they said, first of all, the recommended one is the automatic activation. But in the case of where, let's say you have some like a loop grid inside or something that might delay before it shows up, then you should use the manual activation. So either one is okay. But then the next recommendation says that when a tab list has area of orientation set to vertical, the down arrow performs the action of the right arrow. So all those actions that the right arrow key was performing should be performed by the down arrow. The up arrow should perform all of the action that was described for the left arrow key. And then if the tab list is horizontal, do not listen for the up and down arrow keys. This is very important because let me show you the reason why they say you should not do that. But for Elementor, the up and down arrow keys have this what's it called? They have added JavaScript to listen for the event listeners to listen for the up and down arrow keys, which means now that we have a long amount of text, a keyboard user will not be able to access all of the content of that text because you've literally hijacked their up and down arrow keys. So their up and down arrow keys can no longer perform the action, which is to scroll up or scroll down. It's no longer possible. So you can't scroll up or scroll down. The only way you can do that is using the home key and the end keys, which is a workaround. But that's why the idea is that do not listen for the up and down arrow keys when you don't have to. There's no need to listen for the up and down arrow keys. So the first recommendation is that Elementor should remove the event listener for up and down arrow keys when the tab panel is in the horizontal panel. So when the area orientation is equal to horizontal, which is the default, then don't listen for up and down arrow keys. But if area orientation equal to vertical is added as the attribute, then they should switch it out. They should deactivate the left and right arrow key event listener and activate the up and down arrow key event listener. So that's what they're supposed to do. But anyway, I guess that's that for Elementor. Okay, but yeah, I guess for the most part things are working well. So let's go ahead and see the other thing. The other problem which is written here, I think that one probably is going to have to be users that define it, and that is the fact that was it the tab panel. This fourth recommendation here. So when the tab panel does not contain any focusable elements, or the first element with content is not focusable, the tab panel should set tab index equal to 0 to include it in the tab sequence of the page. That applies for a reason, and that the reason for that is for some screen reader users, some of them can easily access your content without that feature of having any focusable element within the panel. But for some screen readers I've tested with, the screen reader user, if there is no focusable element within the tab panel, the screen reader user has no way to access the content in the panel, because visually we can easily see the panel, so we can easily read the content of the panel when the tab is active. But for a screen reader user, they rely on their arrow keys, and unfortunately, the moment the screen reader accesses a tab's control, the screen reader will deactivate their event listeners for arrow key movement unless they do there's some feature button that they can press to reactivate it. But by default, once a screen reader like NVDA, if you press the tab key and it accesses a tab's control, when it sees the role equal to tab list, it will automatically deactivate all its event listeners. What that now means is that they have no other way to access your content in the panel without having any focusable element. So I think that's going to be a user preference. So every user, when you're using a tab list, ensure that the first element, let me show you an example. Let's see, the example is, where is it? Example automatic activation. You see that the example in, no, not active. Let's try the other one, manual activation. You see the example that in all of the different tabs, they made sure that the first item within the interface is a focusable element, is a link. That now makes it possible for a screen reader user to be able to access the content within the tab panel. And the way the screen reader works is, once it goes into the tab panel has a role of tab panel, then the screen reader will automatically reactivate its event listener again. Then they can now continue using their up and down arrow keys. The moment they go back into the tab list, it will deactivate its event listener, and it will rely on your JavaScript that you've added to your tabs to work the tabs. So unless they have a way they can switch to what they call the browse, the browse mode, and everything works again. Let me see if I can activate NVDA and do a test quickly. I just need to make sure it shows up in let me see. I'll go ahead and activate NVDA now. Problem is that it doesn't come up on my OBS for some reason. But we'll try it out today, since this is my other channel. So on this channel I can do whatever I like. We're always doing some what's it called? This channel is mostly for trial and error, and then once everything works, I move it over to
speech
the
viewer.
channel.
Show speech viewer on startup checkbox checked. Alt plus S.
Okay, I think it works. Yeah, it looks like
OBS 32.0.2 profile Daveden production.
Looks like it's working.
Untitled window. Audio mixer window. Volume slider for desktop NVDA.
Okay, so yeah, we can try it out.
NVDA speech viewer. Example of tabs with
so you notice with, for example, oh, my system has gone extremely slow.
Tabs with manual
Wow.
activate banner landmark aria W3C APG navigation patterns visited link. Main landmark tabs pattern visited deciding when to list with one item. Example of tabs with automatic activation visited link. OBS 32.0.2 profile audio mixer window grouping.
Is it working? No, I don't think it's working. It doesn't look like the sound is working. Just give me a minute. I need to make sure that the NVDA
sources window list NVDA speech viewer shows OBS 32.0.2
okay.
profile
NVDA
OBS 64 window properties OBS 32.0.2 profile production scenes untitled window. Properties for desktop NVDA dialog device. Properties for desktop NVDA dialog device. List. OBS 32.0. OBS 32.0.2. Profile. Daveden production. Scenes.
Interesting. Just give me.
Desktop audio dialog device. Exit NV.
Let me exit NVDA for now and try again. Just give me. Apologies, I'm trying to sort out the NVDA to make sure it sounds on screen. Maybe next time I'll try and use the. Maybe next time I'll try and use the other one, which is a Mac with VoiceOver. But I think I prefer using Windows and NVDA. Okay, let's try again. Let me try and turn it on. NVDA. Hopefully this time it's not slow. Okay, so NVDA speech viewer. And
OBS 64 window. Property OBS 30 help collapsed all properties for desktop NVDA dialog device. List. OBS 32.0.2. Profile. Daveden production. Scenes. Untitled window. Audio mixer window. Properties for desktop NVDA button.
Desktop audio, NVDA.
Scenes window. List. Sources window. Properties for NVDA audio dialog window. Window match priority. OBS 32.0.2. Profile. Daveden production. Scenes. Untitled window. Properties for NVDA audio dialog window. Window match priority. Example of tabs with banner landmark WAP pattern prac about page about the example same access keyboard role JavaScript HTML sort main landmark open in CodePen button.
So I'm now on the link called Open with CodePen. Let's see if that works now.
Open in CodePen button.
Still not showing up in
OBS 32.0.2.
Okay, yeah, I think
example of tabs with manual activation APGYW3C OBS 32.0. Example open in CodePen button.
I think it's working. Okay, so we have open in CodePen. So that's the link before the tabs control. So now let's go ahead and access the tab. So I'll press the tab key.
Danish composers tab control. Either the Fonseca tab selected 3 of 4.
So the moment when you use the tab key as your control and you press from a focusable element outside of the tabs list into the tab list, an NVDA user will hear a beeping sound. That's if there's their automatic mode switcher. It will beep to tell them that they're now in a tabs control element, and that beep means that the mode has been switched. So once the mode is switched from browse mode to focus mode, then NVDA basically deactivates its event listeners. So it doesn't listen for any events of your keyboard. It just uses the regular keystrokes from your keyboard. So now when I press the up and down arrow key, normally with NVDA, up and down arrow key is supposed to navigate between different elements. So let me show you an example. Let's go outside of the tab.
Open in CodePen button.
Now I'm open with CodePen button. If I press the up arrow key, it will go to example.
Heading level 2 example.
So you say heading level 2 example. So basically it will be going element by element and reading out the elements. If I go press up again,
List with one item and their panel is displayed when they receive focus.
it will tell you the whole of that panel. Example of tabs panel with focus. But watch what happens when I get into the
Out of list button heading level 3 button open in CodePen.
So now I'm on button with CodePen. Once I press the tab key, now I'm not using arrow keys anymore. I'm pressing the tab key to get into the next focusable element, which should be the tabs list. It should sound a beeping sound, and then it will tell me tabs control and tell me the name of the tab. So press the tab key.
Danish composers tab control. Either the Fonseca tab selected 3 of 4.
So it first of all, because the tab list has an area labeled by, so it says Danish composers, so it reads the heading, then it tells me tabs control, and it reads out the title of the currently selected tab. And now when I press the up and down arrow key, watch what happens. Up arrow key is now moving the page up and down. That's because the screen reader, once it detects tabs control, it means switch to browse mode and deactivate your event listeners. So that's why it can no longer have access into the tabs panel. There's a way to do it by pressing, I think, the NVDA key and spacebar, or is it control and spacebar? It will switch the mode to back to the browse mode, and then you can continue. But that is not, that's no longer the expectation of a typical screen reader user, or like that's not the expectation of using a screen reader. The expectation is that the screen reader should automatically detect what mode you are on and switch its mode appropriately. You're not supposed to be switching your mode manually, because if the person is not tech savvy, then he may not know when to, or she may not know when to switch the modes and all of that, which is why you should build up your component in such a way that it automatically detects the right mode, the right area label, the right role, the right everything, and presents it accordingly to the screen reader user. So now you see, now that I'm on the tabs control, since I cannot use the up and down arrow key again, and if I press the tab key, if there is no focusable element within the panel, there will not be any way to access the tab panel. But because they've added a link as the first item in the tab panel, when I press the tab key now, so it does another beeping sound. I don't know if you noticed it, and then it reads out the link for me. But since I've entered the tab panel and it has done the beeping sound, meaning that it has gone back to the browse mode, I can now use the up and down arrow key within the panel. So if I press the down arrow key now,
was the daughter of Abraham the Fonseca, 1700 and the opera in Copenhagen. She debuted in 1820.
And it can read out the content of the panel. But now let's go back to Elementor's version, because Elementor didn't implement this. Since I didn't implement a link within the tab panel, watch what happens. So now we have this panel.
Visited link, element, primary navigation, blog link, about link, contact link, main landmark, tab 3 button selected.
So it says, okay, main landmark, tab 3 button selected. So now I know that I'm on the button that is selected. First of all, why didn't it?
Main landmark, tab 3 button selected.
That is already a problem. It says tab 3 button selected, but it never told me I have entered the tabs control. So that means there's definitely a problem with this already. Then, so let me press the up and down arrow keys. Yeah, that means, yeah, Elementor has, this is not the proper tabs, because ideally it should tell me tabs control, meaning that I'm in a tabs interface. It didn't tell me that. That means the area labels are not properly added. So let's go ahead and exit.
Exit NVDA dialog.
So I've exited NVDA now. Let me go ahead and inspect the HTML and actually see what is going on. So right click, inspect. Or let me see if there's a better way. Yeah, inspect. Let's do that. Inspect. And maybe I should even just go to the accessibility tree. And what else? Okay. So let's see if it shows any tabs control within the tree. Nope. All it just says is button, 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 and then generic tab panel. So it says button and then tab panel, but it's supposed to say tabs. So it's supposed to be a tabs list and then a tabs. So something is missing. Let me show you what I mean. So let's exit this one and go to the example. Inspect it. Go over to accessibility and we'll try the same thing. Let me go ahead and expand this to be full. Go into the document. Can I search? Where do I get it? It should be under the main, and then it should be. Now I can't remember where it is. Let's see. I shouldn't have unpinned. Okay, let's just put this on the side. No. Let's click and down to inspect this. Okay. Okay. Then, as you can see, this is how it should be in a proper tab list. You should have tab list, Then within the tab list, so there should be two items, a tab list item and a tab panel item. The tab list, you now add an area labeled by and give it a heading, which would then be related to the heading above the tab list. Let me try and put this back into, let me dock it to the bottom. Okay, so what I mean is, can I zoom out a little bit? Okay, and expand it. So you can see we have first a heading to give us an indication of what exactly is the tab list talking about. Because, you know, you visually, when you see a tabs panel, you can easily know, okay, a tabs component, oh yeah, this tabs is talking about maybe how we have on CodePen, you have HTML tab, you have the CSS tab, and the JavaScript tab. You visually can just see it and know, okay, this is about a code, source code tab interface, but a screen reader user may not be able to know that easily. So sometimes you want to add a heading, and then you now use area labeled by to connect the headings. If the heading is not directly like linked to the tabbed interface, you may want to, maybe like there's a heading, there's some paragraph text and some other things before the tabbed interface. You may want to like show that there's a connection between the tabbed interface and the heading. So you put an area labeled by, and that area labeled by will now link to the tab list. And that way you see Danish composer is the same name because we have used area labeled by. And then within the tab list, there should be a list of tabs. And then after the tab list, there should be a tab panel. So each of the tab lists should be associated, each of the tabs within the tab list should be associated with a tab panel. The other tab panels should be having a display none, so they should be hidden from the accessibility tree. But in the case of Elementor's version, if I inspect it and go ahead and check out the accessibility tree, I'm using Firefox in this example. And let's go into the tab. You can even see there's already an error. And you can see instead it is having role equal to button and then tab panel. So now the tab panel is connected to nothing because this is a button. It's supposed to be a tab and then linked to a tab panel. So there's a problem. So let's go ahead and inspect it and see why it is like that. So we have okay. So the main reason for this problem is that they just forgot to add one role here. So on the wrapper div, this wrapper div here, it should contain a role equal to tab list. That's what is missing. Just one item missing. Okay, so it's not that bad. So somewhere here, they should add, let me see if I can add an attribute, edit as HTML, and it should have role equal to tab panel, tab list, and that's it. So now that I have the role equal to tab list, it should work if I go back to the accessibility tree and inspect it. Yes, so you see now it shows tab list and then tab, which is the correct thing, and then we have tab panel. So that's the first problem. So let me just note it down. Let's create a note. So for the tabbed interface, 1, missing role equal to tab list for the tabs menu. Okay, so 2. The second problem is that the up and down arrow keys should not have an event listener. And then the third one, that one is not a problem really, which is that there should be a focusable element within the tab panel. I think that is something that is the choice of the user. The user should be able to do that. So let's see if Elementor allows us to add a tab index of 0 to our tab panels. So let's see, tab content. Can we do anything on the tab content attributes? And tab index, I hope that's how it is, of 0. Okay. Let's see, that's on the tab 1. Publish. Okay. Let's try it out and see if that works. Refresh the page. Okay, so yeah. So the third one is not the problem. That one, it is meant for the user to add. We can add a tab. Okay, so let's say I think we can even fix the other problem of the tab index of 0. Sorry, the tab on the content. No. On the tabs menu, we can add an attribute. So let's go ahead and add an attribute that says tab, no, role equal to tab list. Let's see if that solves our problem. Publish. Okay, inspect. Okay, yeah, so we can actually solve the problem manually by just adding a role equal to tab list as the attribute on the tabs menu for now. But I think what I feel Elementor should do is they should add those proper roles, but then they should expose it to us in the interface so that we know exactly what roles were added, and if maybe somewhere in the future we need to change it, then we should be able to change it. So I think something like how Buildarius does, that's what I love about Buildarius, that Buildarius allows, whenever Buildarius adds any attribute, they always expose it to the user so that the user can change it if needed, but maybe put it in red color or something that the user knows what was added, and if they need to change it maybe in a future version, maybe there's something they need to change, they can change the attributes themselves if they need to, but it should be there exposed in the interface. I think that's my personal opinion, but I think accessibility experts will tell you that with, how do we normally put it, with great power comes great responsibility. So sometimes if you expose it to the user will use it wrongly. But if you don't expose it to the user, then there is a little chance of them like putting the wrong role or the wrong attribute or something like that. So yeah, so that's, it's always a balance with all of these elements. But yeah, I think the implementation of the tabbed interface is good. It is all like nestable, so you can literally put in anything you want. You can add any element you want into the interface and all of that. I think the only limitation that they just forgot to add that role equal to tab list on the tabs menu. And what else? I think that's the main thing. The other thing, maybe the styling options. Let's see, how do we style it? So let's say we have the tabs menu and the tab trigger. Can we add classes? Okay, yeah, we can add classes to the tab trigger. So like I say, maybe DD tabs trigger. And let's see if I can style it. Let's go for the, let's see, the color, background color. And the color should be okay. And we can also just apply that same color to all the rest of the other tab triggers. And it automatically applies. Okay. Okay, that's good. Then I can say maybe the typography color should be white. Where is it? Typography text color. What just happened? Text color. Show more. It just vanished somehow. Did I do some magic? Typography. Text color. White. Oh, interesting. So that's a bug. I can't change the text color of the typography. It just disappears. Okay, let's publish and refresh the page. Maybe that's something. Refresh. Okay, let's try again. Second time. Tabs. The tabs menu. within the tabs menu, the tab trigger. Let's go again to typography, color. Let's just add it manually. So ash. Nope, I can't change it. So it can't be changed on a class level. Let's go back to local and see if that works. So it can work on local level, but not on a class level. Okay. Nope. So it doesn't work on a class level. Let me see if it's because I added an underscore to the trigger. Let's try something like test and try again. Text color, publish, refresh. Test, okay. Color for background, color for the, no. Okay, so that's another bug. Let me write it down somewhere. So the other bug is that when I add a class to the tab trigger, I can't change the text color. Okay, that's this. The other bug, what else? What else? Let's see. Can we change any other thing? Let me go to the width and height. Let's see, under size, the width. Can I change the width? Let's say in pixels now, 120 pixels, 12 pixels. No. So I can't change that. Local. So there's not much I can do with the classes in the builder. Let me see why it's not working. So let's see 120 pixels. 120, just as a test, 120 pixels. Let's publish. And oh no, it's applying to all of them as 120 pixels. But yeah, it should have worked. So let's go ahead and see on the front end what could be the problem. Let me dock this to the right. Okay, inspect it. Color dot test. Okay, yeah, so the dot test color actually showed up in the builder, but then it was removed. Only the background color works. Why? Because there was a local text color of FFFFF on all of the tabs, so that's why it's breaking. So let's see. On the local, let's go back to the color. Let's see color typography and color. Okay, let's remove that and see if that makes a difference. Clear. Okay. Now let me go back to my DD trigger. No, it's still broken. That means it changes the color, but then it's broken. It disappears from the interface. Okay, so that is one thing. Then what happened to the other one, the width? So yeah, the width of 160 pixels was added. E-text base. Was that from me? 160 pixels. DD tabs trigger. Size. 160 pixels. Where was I added? It just shows 160. Okay, let's clear. Interesting. I added it somehow. Magically got applied, but it doesn't show where it was added from. Interesting. Okay, let's try again. Let me delete this entire tabs and start again. Delete. Create a new tabs component. And this time, let's go again. On the tabbed tabs menu, tab trigger. I'll go ahead and apply a class of trigger. Let's go to size and say 120 pixels. Okay, that worked. Or 140, 130, 150 pixels. Okay, publish and preview on the front end. Let's see what happened. Dot trigger, it just said 1 pixel. And I clearly wrote 150 pixels here, but all it just writes is 1 pixel. So there's clearly something wrong with the tab interface. It doesn't like classes, I guess. It doesn't like you writing classes. So I think it needs some work. Let me refresh. Now it's over. Yep, it needs some work. The tabbed interface doesn't work well with classes, so that's another problem. Okay. Okay, so I think that to be it for now. I don't think I should continue. So I think that is that. Does anybody have any questions about the whole Elementor tabs? I think it still needs some work. This is the beta 1 version, so definitely they will make some improvements before the final release. But I think for the first beta, I've identified some issues. I'll list all these issues in the GitHub request right after the stream. Whichever one they think that they want to fix, they can go ahead and fix it. If they don't want to fix it, well, at least I've done my bit. And yeah, that's it. So thank you all so much for watching and enjoying the stream. Over the weekend, I'll be testing out Bricks with the version 2.2 beta and seeing all the new features that they've released in that version. So see you all next week on this channel next week, but on the other channel, see you all on Saturday. Bye. Now I just have to awkwardly look for